President Trump is a failed leader. He will go down in history as the worst president ever. The good thing is that he soon will be as irrelevant as an old tweet.
In one of the most surprising political clashes in years, Arnold Schwarzenegger, yes, the Terminator, has gone on a fierce, unfiltered attack against Donald Trump, leaving the internet buzzing. What started as a petty dig over TV ratings has exploded into a heated showdown that could shake Trump's political grip. Trump threw the first punch, mocking Schwarzenegger's time on The Apprentice. But Arnold didn't just respond. He delivered a calculated, relentless takedown that some commentators say marks the moment Trump lost his cultural edge. This wasn't just a spat over television, it was a strike at Trump's entire legacy.
President Trump, I just saw your press conference with President Putin, and he was embarrassing. I mean, he stood there like a little wet noodle, like a little fanboy. I mean, I was asking myself, when are you going to ask him for an autograph or for a selfie or something like that? I mean, you literally sold out at this press conference our intelligence community, our justice system, and worst of all, our country. You're the President of the United States, you shouldn't do that. I mean, what's the matter with you? I mean, whatever happened to the strong words or to the strength of Ronald Reagan when he stood there at the Berlin Wall and he said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. What happened to all that?
The feud flared up again when Trump, speaking to a crowd in Iowa, took a swipe at Schwarzenegger. Arnold did The Apprentice, it was a total disaster, he sneered. Ratings went down the tubes. Normally, that jab might have faded away, but Arnold wasn't letting it slide. He jumped on Twitter and fired back with surgical precision, why don't we switch jobs? That single line exploded online, turning from a snappy comeback into a direct challenge, a sign that the Terminator wasn't just aiming at Trump's pride, but at the very myth that fueled his political rise.
As an immigrant to this country, I would like to say a few words to my fellow Americans. President Trump sought to overturn the results of an election, and of a fair election. He sought a coup by misleading people with lies.
The internet erupted. Arnold's tweet, contrasting Trump's fixation on ratings with his own record as California's governor, wasn't just sharp, it was precise. Social media lit up with side-by-side comparisons, Arnold balancing budgets, Trump dodging the truth. His humor doubled as strategy, fueling trending. Hashtags, late-night jokes, and a flood of memes. Soon, people were reminded that Arnold wasn't only a movie star. He was a Republican who led a blue state with more dignity than Trump ever showed in the Oval Office. By the end, the joke had become a statement. This was no longer about TV, but about exposing a failed president hiding behind fame.
And I tell them, I said, hey, stop whining. What do you do? I said, we all have a responsibility. What do you think, the action comes only for the whole world out of Washington, the White House? No. I said, most of the action is happening on a local level and on the state level.
So people should just ignore Donald Trump then when he talks about the environment?
I wouldn't say ignore it. I think you can be aware of it. You have to be aware of your obstacles, but you should not go and use them as an excuse, is my point. You know, you got to go all out. Do I have a vision? I mean, imagine that when I was 15 years old, my vision was to go to America and to be a bodybuilding champion and to get into acting and to do big movies, Hollywood movies. What do you think the obstacles there were? Endless amount of obstacles, and it was very difficult. It was a crime. So did I surrender? Did I go and whine? No. I just said, okay, here are the obstacles. This is what I have to overcome, and I made it.
This is what I had to overcome, he said, and he did. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Schwarzenegger opened up further. He laughed at the idea of matching Trump's original Apprentice ratings, but made no excuses. TV isn't democracy, he said pointedly. Ratings don't measure lives changed. Approval ratings do. It was a line that didn't just sting, it stuck. He wasn't defending his show, he was calling out how Trump built a political career by mistaking applause for leadership. And as he spoke, it became clear Arnold wasn't just mocking Trump, he was stripping away the last defense his supporters clung to. If Trump still saw himself as the ultimate success story, Arnold had just delivered the twist ending.
Don't pay any attention that we have now Trump in the White House, that he may not agree with everything that we are doing or that we believe in. I don't fall for this excuse. I think that you should shift gears, have a big vision. What is it that you can do rather than whining?
Do you hear that from a lot of people in the rest of the world about Trump, though? Are they bringing that issue up to you?
Especially in an environmental issue.
Yeah.
People have been saying to me, what's the point now of fighting the pollution and fighting climate change when we have Trump? And I said, what a stupid thing to say. I said, so you mean that you cannot do anything anymore? I said, do you realize the very fact that when you go and buy something that is made in China, that you're contributing to the pollution because someone has to ship this stuff over there? I said, you can do something, stop it, and just buy a pair of jeans that says made in America. It's that simple.
Then came the knockout blow. Trump left me a sinking ship, Arnold said. Half the country wouldn't watch because of him. That line hit harder than any insult Trump had thrown from a stage. It wasn't an excuse, it was an accusation. The truth was clear. The show's downfall had little to do with Arnold's ability and everything to do with Trump's toxic brand. By staying on as executive producer, Trump turned the franchise into a political battlefield, and Arnold took the hit. But in that loss, he found his advantage. Now, whenever Trump brags about ratings, Schwarzenegger holds proof, undeniable, humiliating proof, that even in entertainment, Trump ruins what he touches.
Arnold Schwarzenegger has a message for President Trump after last weekend's white nationalist rally and counter-protest in Charlottesville, Virginia.
In fact, as president of this great country, you have a moral responsibility to send an unequivocal message that you won't stand for hate and racism.
The former Republican governor of California is disappointed by President Trump's statement that, quote, both sides were to blame for the violence in Charlottesville.
They hired a big movie star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to take my place. And we know how that turned out. The ratings went right down the tubes. It's been a total disaster. And Mark will never, ever bet against Trump again. And I want to just pray for Arnold if we can for those ratings, okay?
Hey Donald, I have a great idea. Why don't we switch jobs? You take over TV because you're such an expert in ratings, and I take over your job. And then people can finally sleep comfortably again.
Schwarzenegger's most powerful blow came in an unexpected video, framed by his Conan swords, where he spoke with the weight of a movie monologue. But this was no act. After the January 6th insurrection, he didn't hold back. Trump, he said, wasn't just a liar, he was the architect of chaos. Arnold drew a direct line between the Capitol riot and Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass in Nazi Germany. His voice cracked, not from weakness, but from conviction. President Trump is a failed leader, he declared. He will be remembered as the worst president in history. No spin. No sugarcoating, just the cold, unflinching truth.
You said history shouldn't repeat itself. Donald Trump is now the front runner to be the nominee of your party, of the Republican Party. Given everything you said, does that concern you?
Absolutely not, because being a front runner of one party and letting them dig this hole deeper and deeper is going to make it easy for the Democrats in the end to win. It's sad to see that they couldn't come up with a new talent, with a new face that is a reasonable, smart, intelligent person that can lead this country in a Republican way.
You think there's no way he would win again?
No.
What if he did?
What is it? It is a hypothetical question. But I can guarantee you that he's going to go maybe get the Republican nomination. Then when it comes down to the actual election, there's too many people now that have seen what he did as president, that I think when it comes to the majority on election day, I think they will see the difference between one or the other. And believe me, I'm not the first one to say, hey, this is really great to have Biden back as president. No, but there's just no better option there, the way it looks right now.
Why do you think he'd be a good president, or would have been?
Yeah, I think that I have the talent to be a good president. And I also think that I have the talent to go out and sell that idea to the American people. Those two candidates, Trump and Biden, suck all the energy and all the oxygen out of the room when they give a press speech or do anything. So no one else has the chance of getting the exposure. And there's really no one with a big name, so to speak. So that's why it will be easier for me, that from one minute to the next, the dynamic would change if I would jump into a race like that.
Schwarzenegger's words weren't just shocking, they were personal. He spoke of growing up in post-war Austria, surrounded by broken men returning from the front lines of fascism, drowning their guilt in alcohol and silence. That buried trauma came rushing back as he watched the Capitol overrun by a mob intoxicated with conspiracy theories. This week, he said, "I saw the same kind of violence carried out by people drunk." On Lies, the parallel was striking. He wasn't talking about policy, he was talking about moral collapse. By invoking the darkest chapters of Europe's history, Arnold wasn't only condemning Trump. He was warning America about the danger of mocking democracy and treating truth as optional.
In the middle of the president's tweet tirade on Saturday morning about President Obama wiretapping his phones, he also took the time to tweet about Arnold Schwarzenegger and The Apprentice, and he said Arnold Schwarzenegger isn't voluntarily leaving The Apprentice. He was fired by his bad, pathetic ratings, not by me. Sad end to great show. What do you think?
I think that Donald Trump's in love with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's what Arnold Schwarzenegger thinks, and I agree.
Okay, so Schwarzenegger spoke with Michael Smerconich's radio show. Here's what he said. She gave it away.
Final question, unrelated subject, but I'd be derelict if I didn't ask. Why do you think the president is fixated on you? Why does he keep talking about you through his Twitter feed?
I think he's in love with me.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so.
You've had a long relationship with him.
Oh, yes.
That's all you're saying on that. Thank you, Governor.
Absolutely.
Well, he also talks a lot
Wait,
about
as they say on Seinfeld, not that there's anything wrong with that, but go on.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is the only guy who has a better chest than Vladimir Putin.
He talks a lot about you, Don, so maybe he's in love with you as well.
I've always thought that. I think that he really likes me. That's why he talks about me so much.
I think the president is in love with success, and he said that the show wasn't going to be successful, and he turned out to be correct, and so he likes to talk about things that he's in love with.
So he's in love with Schwarzenegger.
Okay,
Schwarzenegger by anyone's standard is a huge success. He's a governor. He's, so anyway, go on.
Right, we've now become lulled into this completely parallel universe of Donald Trump in which we all of a sudden, this is just kind of normal. It's worth remembering, George W. Bush, when he ran for president in 2000, said he was running to restore the dignity and honor of the office after Bill Clinton, right? It was a time when Republicans actually cared about that. Now we have a president of the United States who just randomly insults B-rate movie actors, and we think, it's kind of cute, right? This is crazy. It's just totally crazy. We just gotten used to it.
The symbolism in Arnold's video was unrelenting. Holding a sword from Conan the Barbarian, he warned that democracy, like that blade, must be forged through fire and hardship or it will break. Then, in a moment more powerful than any campaign ad, he slammed the sword onto his desk. It wasn't just for show, it was a metaphor shaped by his own life. Lies, conspiracy, violence, he said, that's what they used you for. Cannon fodder in a disgusting game, the clip went viral, but it wasn't the memes or movie quotes that lingered. It was the pain in his voice, the urgency of his warning, and the clear conviction of a man who had seen history try to repeat itself.
As the former governor of California, my home state, California's been in the headlines. Obviously, there have been these huge protests of President Trump's immigration policies. He threatened to potentially arrest Gavin Newsom if he didn't comply. If you were governor right now of California, how would you be handling the ongoing crisis that the state's facing?
Well, I think the most important thing is when you are in a leadership position like that, is that you are inclusive and that you work together with everybody. And so it means that you have to work together with local government, the state government and the federal government have to work together rather than fighting each other. Fighting each other's agendas and all that stuff, that doesn't do good to anybody. And so that's number one. Number two, the most important thing is to create immigration reform. Because all of this is happening because we don't have immigration reform. For decades now, this country has needed immigration reform, which means that we recognize the fact that there's people in the south of America that want to come north to work, and that we therefore should supply them with enough visas so they can come, because we need those workers. So this is the bottom line, because then we would know who is here, we would be able to get rid of the criminal elements that are here, and all of this stuff, so we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in right now. So this is my way of saying always, Democrats and Republicans have to come together and solve this issue if they really want to be public servants. If they want to be party servants and be party hacks and be tied to their ideology, then it won't happen. But if you want to make this country better, and if you want to improve this country and improve the situation of people's lives and bring the prices down and all of this, you will go and serve the people of America. This is what it is. If you're a public servant, that's what you're supposed to do.
You know,
and that's what I would do if I'm governor.
Yes. What shocked viewers most was that Schwarzenegger, a Republican, former Trump ally, and Hollywood legend, had become one of Trump's fiercest, most credible critics. He didn't need votes, donors, or airtime. He spoke freely because he had nothing to lose. "I don't want another office," he later told Fareed Zakaria. "I just want my country to wake up from this nightmare." In that moment, Arnold became more than a celebrity or politician. He became a mirror held up to a fractured Republican Party, one that had surrendered to fear, propaganda, and a reality TV cult of personality that betrayed everything conservatism once stood for.
Mr. Trump has been indicted on federal charges, but most of the top Republican officials are siding with him against the special prosecutor. How do you explain that?
If the charges are correct, then he is going to be in deep trouble. But at the same time, I have to say that, we're always innocent until proven guilty. So we will find out what the courts say in the future. But if the charges are right, I think that he's going to be in deep trouble.
And how worried are you about the fact that he could be reelected president?
I'm not worried about it, because I don't think it's going to happen. But that's just my thinking.
I want to ask you a quick question about Donald Trump. He listed his weight at 215 pounds. You are one of the foremost experts on the male physique, bodybuilding, etc. When you size him up, what would you guess that man weighs?
I don't really know how much he weighs. I can tell you one thing, that if you would ask me what should you do for fitness, I would just say run around yourself 3 times. You're going to be in great shape.
In that same CNN interview, Schwarzenegger doubled down on what he called the Trump delusion, comparing it to European populism and warning that Trumpism was not real conservatism. It was, he said, an empty brand built on fake enemies, fake victories, and fake strength. What we're seeing is not the Republican Party. It's a personality cult. The words hit hard. If anyone could define conservatism, it was Arnold, an immigrant who rose through the American dream, governed with bipartisan pragmatism, and spent political capital on climate action. By contrast, Trump spent for years hurling insults on Twitter, dodging accountability, and turning democracy into a sideshow. Schwarzenegger wasn't just criticizing, he was laying down a challenge.
Trump doesn't seem to see you in the good way that you do, in the way that we do. Here's what Donald Trump had to say about you, and I want to get your reaction to this. He said at the National Prayer Breakfast. This is
hired a big movie star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to take my place. And we know how that turned out. The ratings went right down the tubes. It's been a total disaster. And Mark will never, ever bet against Trump again. And I want to just pray for Arnold, if we can, for those ratings.
Now, this is the President of the United States. You're laughing. You see, laughing.
Because I think it's funny.
Well, the President of the United States and a prayer breakfast says this. Why do you think it's funny?
I think it is funny that he uses a prayer breakfast. I think, plus, I have thick skin. I mean, this doesn't bother me at all. And it's very funny, and it gave me an opportunity to then go and shout back and say, that the show didn't do well because, 1/3 of the audience left because they boycott the show because you're the executive producer, Donald Trump. If you would have just not opened up your mouth and tell everybody that you're the executive producer, we would have had really great ratings on the show. But the advertisers left, the audience left. They hate the guy. So they left, and so I was caught in the middle of this political thing there. So I said, that's why I said I'm not going to do the show again.
So how does it make you feel when you think about the fact that the party, those Republican voters, they may not like your show, but they sure like Donald Trump?
Well, that's perfectly fine. Look, I think that Donald Trump won the presidency. And I called him right after he won, and I said, congratulations, you are now our president. Anything I can do, I will be helpful. Because if you are successful, we all are going to be successful.
But Schwarzenegger didn't stop with Trump. He widened his aim to the entire network of enablers who stood by as democracy unraveled. The politicians who lied to you, the media figures who amplified those lies, they are Conan's sword, he said, lifting the blade again. They used you as cannon fodder. The metaphor was as sharp as it was cinematic. He wasn't just condemning Trump, he was calling out the machine behind him, Fox News hosts, MAGA senators, spineless Republicans, all part of the decay. In a political arena fueled by noise, Schwarzenegger used steel, silence, and sorrow to say what few dared. The real betrayal wasn't Trump's lies, it was the GOP's silence. Even Melania Trump wasn't immune. When asked about First Ladies uniting the country, he didn't name her, but his sarcasm cut deep. We didn't get unity, we got, I really don't care, do you? The jab at her infamous jacket during a visit to migrant children was like a velvet trap dagger. No rant, no shouting, just a reminder, and with that, the First Lady's legacy cracked under the weight of its own indifference. In a single line, Schwarzenegger showed that Trumpism's rot went beyond policy. It had seeped into the image, the symbolism, and the very humanity of the White House.